This is Support is Sexy, episode 482, with Angel Livas, founder of DC Media Connection. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here because you know what? It just would not be the same without you. And listen, if you are a woman entrepreneur and you've done all the blogs, you've done all the social media, you've done the newsletters, you've done everything to get the word out there about your business, first, well done you. But if you are looking for a new way or another way to add to your marketing strategy, to help you get your voice out there, to help you get your message out to more people who can work with you and your business, and you can be of service to people, because I know that's what you're all about, be of service to more people and make those authentic connections, then I want you to consider podcast guesting. Not starting your own podcast, although we love podcasts around here, but being a guest on podcasts is a great way to reach new audiences on a regular, consistent basis. Now, if you haven't done it before, maybe you want to brush up on some tips, don't worry about it. I got you covered. Download my free guide on how to be an unforgettable podcast guest at girlonpodcastgift.com. That's girlonpodcastgift.com. Smart tips on how to be an unforgettable podcast guest and get invited back again and again. Now, today I am super excited about my conversation with Angel Livas. Angel has a media background and shares a lot of great insight, advice. We have media chat in this episode. But what I really want you to listen out for is our discussion about government contracts. Now, we're talking about in the United States, but we also talk about opportunities internationally, because I know we have listeners all around the world, so I never forget about you all. But make sure that you listen out to this, because there are a lot of things that I didn't even think of that are possibilities for working with the government. I've talked about doing this a lot. I bring people on to talk about it. I think I'm going to bring someone on who specializes in this. But Angel has great advice about her experience doing this, how she wants to approach this in her business, the type of opportunities that this opens up for us, especially as women entrepreneurs. We also talk about why discomfort often means progress, how to ask smart questions that lead to opportunities, and also, you know, I love this, the power of collaboration. So I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. So now, without further ado, Angel Livas. So Angel, welcome to an episode of the Support is Sexy podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'm glad to be here as well.
Of course. So our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. I would say that I first fell in love with entrepreneurship when I was, I guess maybe about 11 or 12 years old. And my dad, both of my parents both had their own businesses. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial environment. And my dad on the side also worked at a newspaper location. And he was like overseeing this warehouse. And Saturdays, people had to like come in and get the Sunday paper ready. And so one of the things that was required was you had to stuff the papers. And so my dad kind of talked to me and my brother, my older brother, about like, hey, you guys can create like a business structure around stuffing the inserts for like the comics and all that into the Sunday paper. And so we did. And we used to go up to the warehouse and talk to a lot of the different people who had paper routes and things like that, and said, hey, you know, you can pay us to stuff the papers. And it didn't sound like a lot. We charged them 3 cents a paper to stuff for them.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, it doesn't take a lot to put the comics in the middle of the paper. And at the end of each night, we were grossing about 300 or more, and I was 11 or 12.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
Exactly. So, we were literally stuffing like good 1,000 papers, and that was like our goal. Like, if I could stuff 1,000 papers, that's $300. And we had like I had regular clients. We used to go to like different people, and at that age, it was just very powerful. And I saw like I can make this, one evening, $300. So by the time I graduated high school, my bank account was nice. But it was just that mindset of like, okay, I might not be able to go out with friends. I might not be able to do all the other things. But I can go here, make this, and really benefit from it and, see it in my bank account.
So was that a business that you continued as you got older? Because you said you were about 11?
Yeah, no, I was about 11 or 12. So it was just something that I did. And it was really my first introduction to Angel having like a hustle or Angel having a business.
Your own money. And
Exactly. And it was one of those things where I don't know if your parents were like this, like, oh, unless you're paying for it, this is what it's going to be.
Right.
So it was, okay, well, now I can pay for it so I can buy the things that I want. And so that was like where my love and true passion for entrepreneurship like really began. But it was also the fact that I realized I was helping people. And so, I was helping the workers, like, this is one less thing you have to worry about while you can tend to something else.
And I love that. I'm sure it gave you such a sense of agency too about your ability to create something or be able to provide a service that someone will pay for you to do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, and I think that is the biggest requirement, knowing that there's a need and just knowing how to purpose yourself and surround yourself in environments where it's like, oh, here's an opportunity. How can I service this need? How can I fulfill this to help your life, be better? Because yes, there are certain things that we as individuals want to do and we want to achieve. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to do, that it's beneficial to your target audience or whoever it is that you're trying to obtain as a client.
Are there ways that this experience sort of changed even your personality? Like, how would you describe yourself as a young person? I'm thinking, how would you describe yourself, say, before that experience? And then how would you describe Angel after that experience?
I would say before, because I grew up in an environment where I always saw, my parents doing different things to grow their businesses and things like that. It was that experience changed me because it was no longer somebody telling me, oh, this is a task for you to do. And I was working in the family business, but it was something that I created as an opportunity for myself. And there's something different about when somebody says, hey, here's what you should do. Here's the pathway to do it. Versus when you create that path and then you start to walk down it, then you own it. You feel more purpose driven, and it's a different, your personality and your whole, just how you go about handling the business is just different when it's yours. And I think that any entrepreneur can attest to it. Like, one of my requirements when I hire people is that I tell them, I need you to act like it's your name as CEO of this business. Because I know if you look at this as though it's yours, you're going to treat it differently. You're going to respect it. You're going to go the extra mile to make sure that you get things done. And to me, it's very important that you have a sense of ownership with anything that you're doing, just because it's a totally different attitude that goes along with it.
What would you say were your aspirations then when you graduated high school with your nice bank account? Did you think at that time that you would become an entrepreneur, or did you have other aspirations?
I always knew that I would. I would be an entrepreneur in some sense. I didn't know if it would be like a full-fledged venture, but at a very early age, my dad taught me that you just never know what can happen when you work for another company, and you can give it your all. And then at any given moment, they can say, thank you for your service. Have a nice day. We no longer need your services.
Right.
And for me, I was very blessed to hear that lesson all my life, because as fate would have it, that's exactly what happened to me. And so I was equipped with the tools where it was always never put all of your eggs there, but always have something else that you're working on, something else that you're building that no one can take away from you. And that can only be done is if you're creating it and you're the master behind the vision. And so that's essentially like, that's what happened to me.
So what happened? You were at a particular job and there were layoffs or cutbacks or something like that?
Yeah. So it was after I had my second son. And I was on maternity leave, and they did a reorg, and I was aware that the reorg was happening, and I went, to the CCO at the time, and I said, hey, is this going to affect me? And I guess they didn't want to worry me and send me into labor earlier or whatever. And so they said, no, you're good. Well, after I had the baby, I got a call maybe a few weeks later that, hey, you're going to need to apply for this. And I'm like, what? Like, what
apply
are you
for
talking
another
about?
job, another position in the company, or the job you already had? Yeah.
For another
That's how they
position
do
in
it.
the company. Yeah. And, and I'm thinking like, I shouldn't even have to deal with this. Like, I'm supposed to be on maternity leave, and we could have dealt with this on the front end. So I could have at least been prepared for this conversation. And it was an unfortunate situation, but I will never forget when I found out that I didn't get any of the positions. When I first started there, my boss, and I had been there for 10 years, had told me, he said, Angel, you're going to make a lot of money here, and you're going to do really well just because you're so smart and you're so ambitious and you're just ready to dive in. He was like, but don't get wrapped up here. There's so much that you are supposed to offer the world.
And what kind of company was this, or what industry was this in?
It was a nonprofit, and I was the head of their radio department.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was working in TV and radio while I was there, and literally the moment that I hung up the phone from them and they told me, like, your last day is going to be December 8th. That voice came into my head again, and it was like God literally telling me, Angel, I had to do this, because if I wouldn't have, you would have never got out of there to really fly. And so I took that and it was so funny because I remember my husband was like, I don't believe you. Like, everybody was in denial just because of the level of things that I did for this company. And they were like, you're their star. You're you're everything to this company.
Sometimes the stars are the first to go, depending on how much you get paid.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was their star. They looked at that line item.
Salary,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me back to what my dad told me. At any given time, you can do all these wonderful things for a company, and they can say thank you for your service, goodbye. And so I felt like that equipped me to handle that. But then when that voice came back to me, and like I said, like when I felt like God literally was saying this had to be done, I was able to accept it. Like, had that voice not came back, I'd have had all types of questions. I would have, I would have not handled it as well as I did. But when that happened, it was like, okay, I'm listening. Like, just now I just need you to order my steps. And then that's how, it was, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
So once you regrouped, what was your first step? Was that the first move into creating your business, DC Media Connections?
Yeah. So my first step was listening to everybody else at first, which was, oh, girl, you can get another job and you can do this. And the husband's like, oh, yeah, I'm sure you'll find a job in no time. And at the time I had worked in a lot of I had a nationally syndicated talk show. We had 6 different hosts and all that kind of stuff that I oversaw. And we had carriage lists of like hundreds of thousands of people. So it was a shift from that to, okay, well, let me see how I can translate this skill set into another industry, or even saying in commercial television and radio. And then I was like, yo, I don't make no money doing, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go backwards in life. And And so it was really hard at first because that's all I saw, was the bottom line. And it was like, I can't, I made more than this when my first job out of college.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and this is because it was a change of industry or the type of positions you were looking for at that time?
It was a mixture. Like, some of them were in the same industry, and it was just my salary, what I was making at the time.
Because you were a superstar.
Yeah, yeah. Like, the salary that I was making and the benefits that I had, most companies weren't offering that in media.
Mm-hmm.
Or unless I was like the head news anchor or something like that. And that's not the type of role that I was looking for. And so it was a number of elements that played a part in everybody saying, we would love to have you, but we think you're going to get bored here. Like, that's what stations would tell me. Like, you did so much. Like, you could run this place with your eyes closed. You'd be here for 3 months and you'd be like, okay, I'm done. Like, you would just get bored.
And in those previous positions, were those the ones where you had worked, as I read, and you're doing some research on your executive producer for media icons like Larry King and Gene Pauley, and had been in, as you said, television and radio for 15 years or so?
Right. So those were positions, and the things that I was doing with those individuals were at the nonprofit that I was working at.
Right. So it was after that experience that you were looking for another position, and they were thinking, you're going to get bored here.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. So, yeah.
So what did you feel like? So after going through that experience, is that when you decided I'm just going to create my own thing, or what led you to DC Media Connection?
Yeah. So I had actually I was pondering over it and was just like, I remember laying in my bed one night and I was like, ooh, I could do like a media concierge type firm where when people come into the DC area, we could service them and take them to their when celebrities come to town, we'll take them to their different venues. And that idea kind of came to me when there was only one person in the DC area that was doing that. And whenever I had authors coming to town, like prominent celebrity authors, it was always just one person that would bring them. And I remember one day it was Jane Fonda that he had dropped off. And I went downstairs to like walk her out to the car. And it was just like little, like, I would have been embarrassed to put my talent in that car. I'll just say it like that.
Because that was the only game in town, right?
Exactly. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, like, I can get some nice luxury vehicles and, be a media escort. But on top of being a media escort, I could like literally prepare them for the interviews, because that was one of the things that I did with like our upper management type people. And it was just like, okay, well, I was like, I'll give that a try. Well, I don't know. Like, it wasn't that I didn't like it, but fate would have it other ways. And when you're starting a business, sometimes you just go where the money is. And so if people are like, I'll pay you to help me do this, this, and this, like, you're like, okay, you're going to send me some money? Oh, you're going to give it to me up front? Yep, done. So it started off more me kind of saying, these are my skill sets. Who wants me? And it was like this wide net that I had to literally learn how to narrow my focus and really pay attention to what Angel wants to do and how can I best serve my clients. And so, but that's how, being honest, like that's how DC Media Connection got started. But now we kind of specialize in more, it's still very like open net, like, but it's all around media, whether it's video production, digital storytelling, social media marketing. It's all around a story, kind of like what you and I had discussed earlier. It has to be a purpose behind what you're talking about. It has to be compelling. Otherwise, nobody's going to relate to it, and no one's going to care. So
when you started it, did you do the idea of the sort of transportation from one place to the other, or taking talent around to different venues to start and then transition into what the business is today?
So I talked to a number of because I had very close relationships with a lot of the publicity houses and author and publishing houses out of New York and California. And they were just like very honest. They were like, Angel, it's going to be so hard to get people away from just using that one person. And I could have fought and just been like, oh, come on, like, and took them to dinner and gone up to New York and did all of that. But business, and like I said, in other areas started to pick up, like, hey, can you help us create a capability statement, or can you help us, with some website content? And so it became more of like the strategy of helping people get visibility to their businesses. Whereas before it was, okay, well, I've been on this side of things. I know what you need to do, when you're preparing for your television or radio interview. So let me help you. And I know you need to get there. So opposed to it just being, hey, I'm sitting in the car writing in silence, so I'm trying to sift through my notes on my own. You can have like an all-in-one, but we never end up having the opportunity to manifest that. So
So you went the other direction. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, because for everyone listening, who is whatever stage of your business, certainly if you're just starting, or maybe you're a year or so into it, a few months into it, or even down the line. I mean, even for me, I feel like there are times where I see an area to shift or start something different in my business. So I asked that because a lot of the women who have come on, just like yourself, they say, I was going down this road at first, and then, whatever happened to sort of make them pivot. And that's okay. That works out.
No, absolutely.
In fact, I think it should be expected as entrepreneurs. Very few people are exactly doing the exact business that they started out with.
I agree.
Yeah. Facebook. I mean, everybody. It's just, you just start in a different way, or start with a certain intention and then see. But the thing is, you started.
Exactly.
Right.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. One of my clients, one of the things that she always says is like, start where you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're so wrapped up in it being perfect, and us having this legit business plan down to the T. And a lot of times, like, you go through all of these different things to think that everything is going to stay and be this one particular way. And then you're so stuck on it, you're so tied to it, that it can start crumbling before your eyes, but you're so wrapped up in the vision of it that you're not willing to pivot or to be flexible with it. And I think a lot of times it's starting, but being flexible and realistic with what's actually happening in the business. If it's working, by all means, rock it out. But if you notice that, oh, wow, here's a void in the market, how can I infiltrate this? And how can I, utilize my skill sets to really bring a service or a quality product to a target audience? And to be able to shift that and have that mindset where you're constantly thinking like that. I don't think there's any business out there that should ever get wrapped up in and get comfortable, because technology is ever changing. Everything is changing. So you have to stay abreast of, oh, here's a way that, I could possibly do this differently. Here's a different way that I can potentially market. And just being open and just willing to just get out there and try.
I think too, to your point earlier, what you mentioned you did was also listening to people who were asking you for a different kind of service or something aligned with what you were doing, but not exactly, that the direction you thought you were going to go in. It was, oh, okay, you're going to pay me money to do this. Oh, you need this kind of thing. Oh, like you said, you're going to pay me in advance. Just reasons to pay attention. Sometimes, like you said, we don't even listen. We're so stuck on whatever the original plan was.
Absolutely.
So what would you say your primary services are that you provide to your clients now? I know you have a mixture of kind of all media things, but is there something that that your company specializes in?
We do a lot of video production for both government and private entity like organizations, as well as individuals who are trying to brand themselves. That right now, that is like one of our hottest services, as well as like social media and digital storytelling.
Now, tell us about the decision to focus on servicing government agencies. That was one of the questions I had in looking up some research on you, in addition to the other companies. But was that something that was again, people coming and asking you for this, or was that a focus, which I think is smart, because maybe a lot of companies don't think about, especially women and small businesses, servicing government agencies with media companies?
This is a wonderful question. Honestly, I was scared to death to work and do any work for the government. But I'm a firm believer that it's when you're uncomfortable that you make the greatest progress. And I just remember when I first started my company, there was this women's business center that I used to go to, and they had like this golf event. And just so happened my golf partner was like the head of the women's center. And so we were talking one day on the course, and she was saying, have you thought about doing work with the government? And I was like, no, I don't even speak their language. I don't know what any of the acronyms mean. Nope. And I was so uncomfortable with the idea. Then I started meeting a lot of women in like IT, cybersecurity, and all the things. Like all these women have boss businesses doing business for the government. And I started to inquire. I started to like open up to the idea and be like, is there even media opportunities? Are there, PR opportunities? Like, do they need flyers? Like, what do they need? And they taught me, they like introduced me to it and said, hey, yes, the government needs, whatever your business is, the government needs those services. Mm-hmm. All the way down to like weave and wigs. Like the government, the government will get those services. Think about it. And this is, okay, so I get excited about this. Sorry.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to hear. We're all excited. I'm sure people listening are excited to hear. Tell us more.
So you think about like women who have lost their hair. Maybe they're at war and they need reconstructive surgery, right? So now you no longer have hair follicles because maybe you've been in some type of bombing or whatever. So they need wigs or weaves to be able to create that for them if they're in the military. And so there are literally government contracts out there for wigs or for people who sell hair.
You just changed somebody's life right now, Angel.
So that was the thing. It was like, and I met a wig company who actually had got a government contract. So it was like, oh my goodness. Like I could, like, if you can sell hair to the government, then I can definitely sell some media services. And so the trick is that you have to be willing to join forces with other businesses, because there's a whole lot of small businesses doing some amazing things, but you may not have the capital required to do business with the government. Now capital, they have
meaning actually money.
Yes.
Okay.
Because sometimes it might take 3 months before you get your check, your first check.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's going to take that long, do you have enough capital where you can pay your employees until you get this money? Now, the great thing about it is most of the time when you get that money, it's a couple $100,000 or $1 million contracts. And so one of the things that I wanted to work towards with other media women in business, and I'm sorry if there are guys listening, but I'm a little partial.
We're for women entrepreneurs. There are some great guys listening. I love a few good men, I always say, but we are celebrating and sharing information with women entrepreneurs. So go for it.
So I'm all about creating, I feel like there should be pods. If there are different women who are great in media, how can we partner together where we can go all after these multi-million-dollar contracts? I've seen contracts for like $64 million or $30 million for media, just depending on whatever the services are. Or, hey, we're having a festival and we're going around the country. We need some people to come and shoot in these different locations. What story can you put together that will marry all of, and when you work in television and you have this background, you can do that in your sleep. You already know how to do it. It's just translating that same skill set to to meet the qualifications and the demands of the government. Like, what are their needs? And so I totally encourage women to join forces, link up together so that you can go after these like multi-million-dollar contracts. Because I feel like I can't do it by myself, and I don't want to do it by myself.
And you don't want to, right? That's right. Support is sexy, Angel.
Yes, like I want us to, like, how can we work together and ride this tide together? Like I don't want to have to do this on my own. You know, so the more people that I feel like I can empower with the information, that's what I'm going to do.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I meant it when I said you changed somebody's life, meaning somebody's business, because I'm sure there are women, myself included, but I've had this conversation with people before, and I'm in sort of the media communication space. And I would think, oh, but do they really need things like that? I just always assumed the government would have its own, whatever department. And as you said, there are contracts for everything, people have told me. But the wigs and beauty products, I'm sure, maybe now I'm thinking of other things that if you look, you never know. You have to look and find out. So I don't know if you have any agencies or things you suggest, or not agencies, but information or sources people can look to, but I'll definitely make sure I link to some. And I'm going to do actually a special episode on this. And just to make the distinction before you provide that to us, we have listeners in 130 countries, thank God, on the podcast. So for everyone listening, we're talking about the U.S. government, but check wherever you live and see if there's an opportunity for you to have contracts or different things with your government wherever you are. So just thinking differently about who your quote unquote client is.
Mm-hmm. And it's definitely available all over, like internationally. I have people who are because I also have the nonprofit, people who are part of our women's organization that do business in Africa and all continents. And a lot of times these opportunities are available on like the government's website or their government entity websites. So like in the US, you have like all of these different government agencies, and each one has its own budget. And the great thing is, they have to spend that money by September, by the end of their fiscal year, or September, October. And if they don't spend it, they lose it. And then they don't acquire that money again in the following year. So even looking for opportunities that may not be multi-million-dollar opportunities, but just getting your feet wet and getting introduced. So, and it doesn't have to necessarily be federal contracts. So your federal locations that you could go is Fed Biz Ops. So FED, Fed Biz, BIZ, Ops, OPS.gov. And Fed Biz Ops will allow you to see all of the federal government opportunities and proposals out there. Not proposals, but where they're requesting for proposals, RFPs. And so with that, that's where you go in and start trying to figure out, okay, here are the different agencies that look for media, or here are the different agencies that are looking for people in IT or authors or people who can do communication strategy or tech writing. When I say there's something for everybody, there's something for everyone. But if you don't think that you want to start at the federal level, you can also do it at the state level. And at the state level, they have their own systems as well. So like here in Virginia, you have EVA. In DC, you have AREBA. So it's just figuring out, like, in your state, what does the state use to post the different opportunities?
And is this EVA?
EVA.virginia.gov, AREBA, ARIBA, probably .gov or .com. I'm not sure about the AREBA one.
Okay.
But like literally you can just Google like state agency like for contractors or whatever, or just call like your local office that would have information about government opportunities, like where they're posted. They even do it down to the county. So, depending on what level, and if you want to be closer to the opportunity, it's just a great way to make a little bit more money without all of the back and forth. But, the government, they want things a particular way, just like a regular client does. And so I think taking that oh my God, it's a government. For me, it was very much like, the government? Like, oh no, I'm not ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Taking that away and just looking at it like, I'm providing a service or a product to this client, the same way that I would be doing to Coca-Cola or to Pepco or wherever. It's the same thing.
Right. Thank you for that. That's such great information. As I said, for everyone listening, I'll make sure I link up to things, but Google is your friend. Do some research now that you know that this is an opportunity, or you've been reminded. Sometimes we already know and have to be reminded. You might be missing out on some opportunities if this is something that you want to do. So for you, Angel, were there things that you needed to, well, I guess it depends on what you want to do. People can look online and see what you need to have in place for your business, because I know there's certain registrations and different things that different agencies want you to have.
Yeah, so I will tell you the one thing that you have to have if you want to register and work with the federal government is be registered within SAM. And I believe it's sam.gov. And it's free, but it's just how the government pays you. So you would have to register in SAM to make sure that all of your information is up in there. You need to make sure you have a DUNS number, NAICS codes, NAICS, and these are all things that you can kind of Google if you're not familiar with. And what else?
And DUNS is the Dun and Bradstreet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just making sure you have all of those things in place, and then inputting. Now, it does take a minute to go through and complete your SAM's registration, but once it's done and it's good for a year.
Right. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So good. Now, I know your team includes professionals that also work either jobs or at other companies. So you sort of mentioned collaborating. How important is it for entrepreneurs to find new ways to partner with each other? As you mentioned, for these government contracts, but are there other ways in your business that this has been successful for you?
Oh, absolutely. So I partner with a lot of different media companies because one, you don't have to have a team of 50 on your staff to be successful, but you need to have a networking or a network of people that surpasses 50 that you can always call on to come in, fill the voids, and that have no problem putting on a DC Media Connection shirt or whatever your business brand is to go out and provide services to your clients. And so I've been very fortunate. I mentioned it earlier, but I have a women's nonprofit called the Woman Behind the Business. And one of the things that we do is we try to bridge the gap between women entrepreneurs on an international level. And so last year we had our annual retreat in Nassau, Bahamas. And so now we have relationships and we've had partnerships that have come into fruition because the women have now connected. They know someone in another country and, okay, well, how can we do business together? And so those business transactions are starting to occur. And I think a lot of it just stems from being open to learning. Here are some different people who could potentially, be a partner of yours. And so, like I said, it's so powerful. There's just so much power in numbers. And I think that we as women, especially my African-American women, we have to get out of the mindset that we are the only ones that can do the job. And trusting that, okay, hopefully everybody thinks that way about their business, that you do it the best, right? Mm-hmm. But trusting in that. Just like if you wanted somebody to partner with you, you want them to trust you, that you know what industry you're in and that you're going to do it to the absolute best of your ability. Right. And when we're able to trust that and look at situations where it's like, okay, I know so-and-so got this, I know this person got that, you can really build some magnificent opportunities. Like you'll be amazed at how things will start just attracting to you. And, I can speak to this because when I did the retreat last year, we had the First Lady of the Bahamas who came and did our welcome address. We had Tasha Page Lockhart from Detroit, gospel artist who did, our closing ceremony. But I feel like God attracted these people to me where they said, okay, yep, we'll do it. No problem. We'll show up. But it's in trusting that, okay, I know that I can trust this person to handle this person handle this, that things will start to come to you that you never even imagined would be possible. And that was our first retreat there.
Right.
So
Trusting that people can handle it, I think definitely. And then trusting that there's enough to go around. I think that's sometimes what holds some of us back too. We want to be the only one that put on the retreat or the only one that did the so-and-so and such, thinking for whatever reason that if someone else gets in, they're going to, whatever the thinking
take the
behind
glory.
it. Yeah. What at the glory or the clients, or it's too much competition in the room. And it just, I don't know if you agree, but I just think there's that part of it too.
I agree 150%.
Yeah, because you want them to think you're the best, but you have to be confident that the person or the people or the clients who want me are going to find me, are going to come to me.
And I think the same thing is true when people are afraid to share information.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly telling people, if you believe in who you are and what you're capable of, nobody can do it like you. So I can sit here on the radio and talk about how, hey, you can do this to boost your social media. Yes, it will help you, but it's not going to help you to the extent that if I do it.
Right.
So I don't have a problem telling you, hey, this is what you need to do to get out and do this. This is what I did. This is my story. Because one, I believe in authenticity, but then two, I also trust my abilities. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, if I tell them, how to do this or, what I did, then they're going to do it and they're going to do it better than me. No, there's enough out there for all of us.
Right.
And when I share, I definitely feel like I want people to share with me because I want to learn the same way that everybody else is learning.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's just, to your point, there's enough out there for all of us. We can all win. Why not win together?
That's right. And it sounds like the Women Behind the Business retreat is all about that idea that we can all win together. So you bring these women together. How many was it for this first one? Is it a large retreat or something intimate?
So our very first one, we had about 50 women.
That's good.
So we had about 25 that flew out from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and about the same attended locally from the Bahamas.
That's a good mix of women.
Yeah. I will not, it was a very powerful 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we just recently announced some of our speakers. But the thing that I love most about it is it's not like you have to run up and try to talk to the speaker afterwards because you realize, they're here. Mm-hmm. They're not going anywhere.
Right,
they're
right.
part of the experience just like I am. So, they may be here to speak right now, but afterwards we're all going and doing a food tour around the Bahamas afterwards. So I'll have some one-on-one time because to me, I think that yes, it's powerful to sit in a classroom together and learn together, but when you really get to know the character of the person, the integrity of the person, and that comes from spending time with people. That's why the retreat is different in that sense where you get the professional development, but you also get the personal development with a twist of exploration. So yeah, I'm all about how can we come together? How can we bridge this gap? And we trying to make millions.
That's right.
And however we can do it together. Exactly.
So where do we find out? Of course, I'll have links to everything, but where do people find out more about the Women Behind the Business organization?
Yeah, so you can go to WBB Talk, so WBBTALK.com.
Okay.
And they can also follow us on social media, same social media at WBB Talk. Yeah.
Great. So in closing, Angel, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
One person?
One person.
Oh my goodness. That's not fair.
I know.
Okay, so if I had one person, I would have to say my dad. I would thank my dad for instilling the confidence and always showing me that I could be anything that I put my mind to. But not just from telling me, but from leading by that example. Yeah, and so I would just say thank you for giving a little girl a dream that she could literally make come into reality, and being there to watch it all happen.
Excellent. That was perfect. You did it. Perfect. So now tell us the ways that we can support you. Give us your website and any other social media. Of course, I'll have links to everything, but I just want people to hear it.
Oh, absolutely. So you can visit me on our website. The for-profit is dcmediaconnection.com, or our nonprofit, which is the Woman Behind the Business. That's wbbtalk.com. And then I also recently launched my own personal brand, which is Angel in Livas. And that is same thing, angelnlivas.com. And
I-N, the letter N or I-N?
N, just the letter N.
Okay.
Like, Nicole's my middle name, so it's Angel N.
Okay.
And so there you can also find my book that recently came out earlier this year. It's called Brand Reppin' 101. And that's all about branding and the journey of that I took my kids through and becoming brand reps or social media models.
Excellent. Oh, we're going to have you back to talk about that. I know people want to know. Excellent. Angel, thank you so much. This was so fun and so informative. I mean, I try to make every episode informative, but I love diving into these areas that maybe we don't talk about as much or people don't think about. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
Of course. My pleasure. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
That don't be afraid to share your valley moments. Your valley moments are those times in your life that it's extremely difficult and you don't know how you're going to make it to the other side. I truly believe that there is power in sharing those experiences. And even though we're the ones that go through it, I think that the blessings are there for other people who you share it with, because you just don't know what they're currently going through and how you can be a blessing to them.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Angel. To find out more about her, more about DC Media Connection, and those resources that were mentioned in this episode for working with government agencies and getting those government contracts, do the research, at least see if it's something that will work for your business. Make sure you go to supportissexypodcast.com, go to that search icon at the top, and just type in Angel. Angel. Her show notes page will pop up with those links, resources, and ways to get in touch with her. Supportissexypodcast.com and just search Angel. All right. Thank you again so much for listening. I appreciate you. I hope these episodes have been helpful to you. I try to provide you as much information as possible, as well as these fantastic women who are, to me, and I hope to you, so inspiring. So until we chat again, always remember that you deserve support. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.